Welcome to Farming for Health, where Farmer Lee Jones and I talk with leaders in food, farming, and health and wellness to spread knowledge and inspire a plant-forward future, starting now. I'm Dr. Amy Sapola, and today we're here at the Chef's Garden, and we are at the Culinary Vegetable Institute, one of my favorite places, and we are up here in this library, and I'm joined by Chef Kim Sutherland. Welcome, Kim.
Hello, thank you.
Yes, thanks for being here. So first, let's just start off talking about why you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I came to see the library here. That was no, I didn't really. Although it is like the dreamiest place for a chef you can imagine. So I'm here because, well, I've had an opportunity to come here a few times now in different conferences and that, and really hit it off with you and I in a great conversation all about food and wellness, and we align so much in my beliefs on health and wellness in the food industry. And I think once after our first conversation talking about our backgrounds and where we had come from, mine comes from the corporate executive chef world, and then I became a yoga teacher and bridged that gap with mindful eating meditation practitioner.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to have you here. And one of the things I'd love to talk about a little bit more is how you decided even to become a chef. Like, what made you want to become a chef, and what was your journey to get there?
It's funny, actually. People always ask that, and I say, like, did you start really young in a kitchen with your grandmother, something like that? Not at all. I actually did a year of university because I wanted to be a sports trainer. So, but discovered I was a very bad university student. Mm-hmm. And then one of my guidance counselors had said in high school, actually I went back to, because I was coaching a team. She said, why don't you go to like culinary school? And I was like, why would I ever want to do that? And she said, oh, it could be fun. I think you'd be great at it. And it was at that exact time that Friends had started, and Monica was a chef on Friends. So I went to culinary school for twofold, and not many people know this. And it may be the most ridiculous story you've ever heard. I went to culinary school, A, because Monica on Friends was, and B, because I thought if I could feed a boyfriend, I would have a boyfriend.
I love it.
That's super 25 honest. Years later, I'm still in the industry. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it was not, it wasn't necessarily because I really loved the cooking aspect, but then my first spot in a kitchen, I really loved the adrenaline aspect, and I loved the diversity, and I loved the camaraderie, and then I was all in after that.
I love that. So tell me about, how did you get interested in mindful eating? Because I know that's something you really bring unique to the table, especially in the chef world, bringing together that like mindful eating experience.
Yeah, you know what, like I had mentioned earlier, I had gone to do my yoga teacher training, and I never went to do the course because I wanted to be a yoga teacher. I just really wanted to be better myself at doing yoga and learn like the positions, stuff like that, or the poses. So then I fell in love with sharing yoga. And then when I make chocolate chip cookies that I truly believe are the greatest thing on the planet. And I say chocolate chip cookies are my love language, and they're also my currency. So when I need to purchase something, I bribe people with chocolate chip cookies in order to buy things from them.
Yeah.
And so I always believed that if there was a time when you could mindfully like pause and eat a chocolate chip cookie, and I didn't even call it mindfully back then when I first started thinking of it, and just pause and eat a chocolate chip cookie and just relax, what would the rest of your day look like? How would the rest of your day go on? And I had a friend of mine who had taken her own life, and she worked in a big corporate building for the government. You would have thought that she would have had all of the tools available to her. And I thought, wow, her day would have been so different. Maybe her day could have been different if she would have paused and got off the busyness and just really relaxed and ate a cookie and created a conversation with someone else and created community around that. And maybe the cookie was the catalyst in it. And then that slowly rolled into, I actually thought at one point, I'm like, I know I can't be the first person to think of this. Someone's had to think of this. So I had gone to the local bookstore and started to look into it and started to dig a little bit more on what that looked like. And then all of a sudden the pieces really got put together for me, because I've watched people shovel food in their mouths for 20 plus years without any acknowledgement of what it is they're eating. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I've spent hours, the thought process in what it took to create that. Like, did you taste those flavors? Are you aware of what that was? And then it all kind of came full circle when I realized, like, people shut off their brains in most cases and just put food in their mouths, oblivious to the how, the why, any of the acknowledgement as to what is happening there.
Yeah, and I see that from a health perspective too, with poor digestion, where people are having so many digestive issues, and oftentimes we're eating without even salivating, right? Like, we're so concentrated on doing other things that we're not even starting the digestive process. And I always say the digestive process starts with our eyes, but then it's your mouth, and it's the chewing, and it's secreting saliva. But we have to calm down and get present to even be able to do that and to have that proper digestion. And then, of course, it's feeling, I think, the appreciation and the gratitude for the people that grew the food, the people that prepared the food, like the beauty of the food that you're about to eat and like all of its nourishing qualities.
And then even taking it one step further, and I have 3 teenagers in my house now, so trying to get around the dinner table when someone's not on a phone.
Yeah.
Plus I'm also in an industry that became so fueled by the Instagram photo of their food and what they're preparing and what they're eating. And I remember getting together with a group of chefs once, and we were all eating dinner. Funny enough, it was here, and the whole group was here, and they all pulled out their phones to take a photo, and the food was absolutely stunning. And I said to them, I'll challenge you. You can take your photo, but you're not allowed to post it until after we leave the dinner table. You have to stay present in your conversation the entire time. And they were like, oh yeah, okay, and I was like, no, your friends aren't invited to the dinner table. You're invited to the dinner table. So I think one of the biggest things, and kind of the mindful push, and of course the term mindful, and we've spoke about this for 2 days now, but the term mindful gets very whitewashed and it can be very woo-woo to some people. And I guess it really just comes back to connecting and being present with where you are. And in many ways, we're disconnecting to our food and what that actually is, the purpose of eating together around and sharing stories and all of that around the table, which is huge.
And that's one of the things I know you're really passionate about, and I love that we've talked about the last few days, is like the food stories and connection with your family. Can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, like growing up, how many times would you sit around the dinner table and you talk about your day and you talk about things that happen? That often sparks a story. Or family gatherings. Every major family gathering involves the food. It's all about the table. We gather, like if you think about, we bring food for celebration, we bring food for mourning, we bring food for support. Everything about the food has something to do with it. So why aren't we taking the opportunity to be around the table to reconnect with people and have those conversations, and instead of just being there and asking like surface things, but really taking an opportunity to dive deeper and hear stories. We don't tell stories like we used to anymore. Yeah. And I think that we're doing a disservice to the future generations by not carrying on those stories and what things and the lessons that could be learned over that.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing we talked about was kind of like the energy and intention that goes into preparing food and like serving food. And sometimes we get wrapped up in that, like, well, my kitchen's not perfect, so I don't want everyone to come over, heaven forbid someone sees my kitchen dirty, that sort of thing. How do you talk with people about that? A message from our sponsor. Farming for Health is brought to you by Farmer Jones Farm at the Chef's Garden. Farmer Jones Farm provides nutritious, regeneratively grown vegetables to home cooks nationwide. If you are searching for vegetables grown in a way that's healthy for you and good for the planet, try a curated box from Farmer Jones Farm. Get 15% off your order with the code FarmingForHealth15.
So that's one of my favorite, well, I'll say that a lot. There's a lot of my favorite things to talk about, especially if they're all kind of around food and eating. Because I don't get invited to dinner parties. Like, nobody invites a chef for dinner.
I know, that's very intimidating.
People are so intimidated by us. I'm like, even my mom sometimes wouldn't invite me over. I was like, Mom, like, I ate your food 20 years before. Like, at least half of my life has been your spaghetti dinner. So, But when it comes to creating food and being around that, we have so much judgment and so much expectation. And majority of the time, it's just about sharing something you love. It could be, and I always say, you could make me a can of tomato soup and a grilled cheese, or make me microwave popcorn. I don't care. The fact that I've been invited somewhere, I'm being included, and we're doing this together, that's the important part. It has nothing to do, like, I'm not going and critiquing you on your meal afterwards, because I'm not cooking that for myself at home. Right. So it's the act of being together and creating community, that's the important part. So I really encourage people to not worry about if they have a perfect kitchen. And we really need to get out of that style of being and that judgment around each other and that one-upping each other, especially when it comes to food. Like, everybody wants to be a chef. Everybody wants to be, funny enough, everybody wants to be a chef except most of the chefs. They all want to be out of the business, but that's not the reality. The important part is the being together part, regardless of what you're eating.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think about my own childhood. Like, my grandparents grew a lot of fruit. And one of my favorite food memories is eating damson plums with my grandpa. And that wasn't fancy or, very, like, complicated. It was literally a warm plum picked right off the tree. And I think sometimes we overthink it and try to have this really complex meal, and those may not be the memorable ones, right? It could be, just like you said, the toasted cheese and soup and having a great conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's why like charcuterie boards and that caught off so much, because it creates an opportunity to have conversation. You're in charge of your own self with regards to what you're going to put on a cracker. It could be 25 different things, but it gives people an opportunity to really connect while they're nibbling at things, and it gives the host a little less pressure to create something big and fancy. And I think that even being able to do that is a beautiful gift to build conversation and community around food.
Yeah. And when it comes to mindfulness, I love to talk about, like, using all of your senses and, like, the creativity that comes from that too, like looking at color and scents and, all of the things. When it comes to cooking, like, how do you create that, like, sensory experience?
I would say for me, it really starts with, like, if I'm at the grocery store or the market and what looks good. I am very guilty of not committing to, like, a set menu. I could never do a set menu a year out because, and I always use cauliflower, poor cauliflower. I love cauliflower, but I always use that as an example because, like, 3 years ago when the cost of cauliflower went exorbitant in, at least it was in Canada, it was like $11.99 for a head of cauliflower. I thought all those people that are committed to that cauliflower menu are going to be going broke off of it. But I would say, like, when I go to the grocery store or the market, something that looks like it's really well grown and it looks like the food or the energy of food really starts, that's step one. If it's a limp, bruised anything, it's not going to give off the kind of energy you want in creating something. So that would be the step one for me. And then really engaging in, when I get the ingredients home, if I have fresh basil to put in something, I'll try the basil. I want to know what the basil tastes like, or if it's a sprig of rosemary or something like that. So I'll try all the ingredients individually before I'm going to combine them all together. And I think that's where a lot of people come home and they have a recipe that's all set out and it's very structured, and they just go through the routine of putting together the recipe instead of really experiencing the food as a whole. And I think that's where being able to set that stage and make it an event, even if it's just a small event, still making an event to almost like you're making it sacred to create that food, because truly, like, it's a gift to be able to create food.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about was, it's even whether you're cooking for yourself or for 2 people, 5 people, 100 people, like, I think it's still that experience. And sometimes we don't give that to ourselves. We're so focused outwardly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times we we as human beings create food for the enjoyment of someone else, and that's kind of where our ego comes into it. And I really challenge people who, because our single person population, I'm a single mom, and I remember even one would think because I have all the tools to create really great food for myself, there was many times I was not. If my kids were not with me, I was not making myself dinner. And it was really a shift in perspective to recognize that, no, I'm worthy of a really great meal just on my own. And I think for people to recognize that cooking for themselves and nourishing themselves should be the forefront instead of parents who make sure their kids are really well fed and then grab an apple on the way out the door. Right. So we're a little disconnected in our eating habits with regards to putting ourselves in that category of nourishment, for sure.
Yeah. And that's actually one of my questions I had for you is what, like, I love the term nourishment and I love thinking about nourishment, but when we talk about nourishment, what does that like mean to you or look like to you?
I would say I get excited about really pretty things. So for me, nourishment's not just what I'm eating, it's the experience. If I'm going to a market, then I'm nourishing my soul. If I'm doing that, if I'm like picking all these beautiful things and I'm in the experience, I guarantee that meal is going to taste 100 times better, regardless of what I put in it, because the experience and the energy that I've given to that. And I think if we did that more, then we would really, our level of cooking and our level of creation and our level of physical nourishment would change so drastically, because we see value in every piece, like recognizing the farmer who's grown it, recognizing the person who has picked all the food, and go all the way up the chain of command and how it took for that to get to your plate. And I think being able to walk through that and just be aware of all of those steps. Like, we're in a society right now, we can go down the road to a store in most cases and purchase whatever we want in many ways. That is a whole like level of gratitude that needs to be shown to begin with. So I think in many ways we don't take enough opportunity to kind of take it around piece by piece. We really take for granted what we can do. And I think for me, being able to nourish all of those, it's a mind, body, whole experience. And it's usually surrounded by pretty colorful things.
I love that answer. And it makes me think of you making salads. We talked about you making salads, is just an experience in itself that you love to like pick things and put all sorts of ingredients in. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think many ways we limit salads to just, I'm going to put some lettuce and I'm going to put some dressing on it. Yeah. And I know here of course it's like an unlimited palette of incredible things to put on a salad, but there's no reason why you can't put herbs in your salad. Put some fennel fronds, like throw things into your salad, make it more incredible. You're just increasing your nutritional value as you do that. But there are so many things out in the world that would be beautiful accompaniments to a salad. You could put seeds and put nuts. Don't just stick to like your basic kind of ingredients like a crouton. I love croutons, but if you're going to put croutons in, make them yourself. Yeah. Like there's all those little one-ups that you can do to create that salad. Make your own salad dressing. Salad dressing's not hard. It's a simple mathematical ratio, like 1-3. It's very simple. But it really... I think salad's one of those easiest things to start with that is very forgiving in many ways, and you can get adventurous with it and just continue to add on and add on.
Yeah, and I love you can use all the seasonal ingredients. Like the salad doesn't always have to be cold even. Like we were talking about warm salads or like what root vegetables this time, like fall and winter root vegetables, and maybe in the spring it looks lighter and more bitter greens, and so the salad can change with the seasons as well. Yeah,
we don't necessarily have to just keep like the salad title as lettuce. Like we are talking about julienne Brussels sprouts with Caesar salad, with a homemade Caesar salad dressing instead of using kale or romaine. Like you've just taken it one level further. And then like if you think about it, warm potato salad has been a European staple for hundreds of years, but we don't necessarily make warm potato salad anymore. But there's so many ways and different things that we can do that isn't just the cookie cutter of lettuce and dressing.
Yeah, right. Oh, I love that. All right. So I know one of the things you do with your cooking that I think is amazing is to include mantras or kind of like inspirational sayings or quotes. Can you talk more about how you got started doing that and the effect it has on the people who consume your food?
So that kind of went back to, that was what morphed out of the chocolate chip cookie, and belief is that, okay, well, why aren't we taking this time to actually connect with all of the food? What do those conversations look like? So I'll always give someone, I was doing packaged meal boxes for a little while, or whenever I do a catering, I will bring something that incites or inspires connection to something bigger than yourself, something bigger than just this plate that you're looking at, like something that will inspire you for a bigger picture, whatever that might look like for you. And it's funny enough is I can have a very blanket one or something that I'm really drawn to, and 9 out of 10 times I will hit 9 out of 10 people needing that exact bit of information. And I always think the Mother Nature seasonally provides what we as humans need based on that. It's like ingrained in nature for forever. That's how things are provided. That's why squash and that comes at the colder months. It's exactly how our bodies and that. So if you a lot of the times I'll gear the mantras towards needing more nourishment and rest. You need to inspire you to be more creative, and a lot of times there's always someone that will that'll hit with those thoughts.
Oh yeah, I think we all could use a little,
Yeah.
a little of all of those.
Oh yeah, I should read them all first. Please don't don't think I'm preaching to someone else. This is 100% my lesson, my daily lesson for myself. Yeah. Oh man, what do I need to know today? Oh Kim, maybe you need to do this. Oh yeah, I really do need to do that. Yeah.
Yes, I totally share that. All right, so I'd love to talk about, like, for you, I know when we talk about mindful eating, sometimes people are like, okay, like, I get it, it's using your senses, but like, what does that look like for you? Like on a normal day, like what is mindful eating? How does that incorporate into your life?
I would say the easiest way is that I used to eat a big giant chocolate bar, and now I'll have like 3 chocolate chips.
Yeah. And
I think okay, that's not meaning I don't always or do it that way, because sometimes I really want the big chocolate bar. But it's really about the connection between the food and being mindful when I'm creating, like this cup of tea. I'm very aware of what's in the tea. I'm looking at it. I'm engaged in my senses. And then, of course, that for me, which I truly believe will work for everyone, once you see what someone else puts together, then all of a sudden it will go, oh yeah, you know what? I've seen these ingredients together before. Then I'm going to go create a plate, and I'm going to put that in my dinner together. Like, there's so many ways. People always wonder, oh, how do you come up with those ideas for food? A lot of times it's just by seeing what someone else has and then adding on or recreating it in a different way. Like in the tea, for example, like that's got sunchokes and rice and this incredible tea, which I would have never thought put in tea, but I definitely would put them on a plate of food. I would add them into a salad. So it's just taking those things. And I think being aware in that and connected to that is one piece, but also tasting the food that you're eating.
Yeah.
Instead of taking a spoonful, and I have a teenager, and I love him, but he is a fast food eater. And I don't mean he eats McDonald's on a regular basis, but he will sit down and he's elbows up, almost like he's worried his family members are going to steal his food. And he's like shoveling and shoveling. I'm like, you haven't even finished the first bite. You can't put bite number 3 in yet. Like, did you taste bite number 1? And I think because we pack so much in our day and we want to get on to the next thing. And the average person right now has like an 8 to 10 second attention span, which means by the time we've picked up that fork, our brain's already gone to a whole other pile of things. So the mindful eating piece is being aware of like putting that spoon in your mouth, tasting the food. And before you put another one, let that taste, the roll on your taste buds, let that flavor go. And then put another one in. Like the thought when everybody's like, oh yeah, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, but you didn't even taste it. The first taste bite actually ignites your taste buds. The second one's where you actually start to understand what the flavors are. So you can't just jam something in your mouth quickly and already come up with a judgment that you don't like it. So I think being able to sit and be present and taste the food that you're eating, and I'm not saying everybody's going to love everything, but coming up with that thought before you're already on to the next thing is probably one of the biggest keys to mindfulness around your eating habits.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is so good. And I need to share that with my 4-year-old. It was like, can I take a little bite?
Yeah.
And then she takes like a lick of it and she's like, no, I don't like it.
No, and your taste buds, and it's so funny because my parents are like, or my kids are like, oh yeah, our mom's going to tell you your taste buds regrow every 30 days. So something that you didn't like before. And I'm like, but they do. So your taste buds regrow every time you burn them on something, every time it's something sharp, they're constantly regrowing. So it's not that you don't like the taste. It's that your brain's telling you there's something that you didn't like previously. Mm-hmm. But if you open your mind up a little bit to it, maybe all of a sudden you're going to be it's surprised that you're going to like something differently. Yeah. And I really encourage people to try that. And my kids never want to hear me say that again.
Love it. So, kind of switching gears, you've had some amazing experiences along your career cooking alongside celebrities, celebrity chefs, cooking for celebrities, cooking for professional athletes, like the list goes on. I'd love to hear about maybe some stories from that and lessons learned, or like kind of the overall experience of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent 9 years, almost 9 full years doing backstage catering and traveling around opening venues for various bands, things like that. And had absolutely there to sit and listen back to the stories I've had, like even I kind of go, wow, like that was a lot of fun. So I do not regret a single moment I spent with any of them. They were a lot of work. And when they talk about like the bands and riders and things like that, I had to essentially like manage all of them. So the one thing I have learned is that food is a universal conversation. Mm. It does not matter if you are the former president of the United States or if you are a 14-year-old who was founded singing on the Disney Channel, or if you're a professional wrestler, or if you're a professional hockey player. Food is the one conversation you can have with anyone. And I remember there was a Slayer, Megadeth, and Testament were the bands that were in our venue one day. And I did not know who any of these people were. Like, I knew who the bands were, but I couldn't, if they were walking down the road and they were like, hey, I wouldn't have a clue who they were. That wasn't my priority. Ever was knowing who the band guys were, the band members. Of course, this drove my staff crazy because they're like, don't you know who you're talking to, Kim? I was like, no, I have no clue. We're talking about crackers. Doesn't matter to me. And these guys and I were having this incredible conversation about quinoa and organic versus non-organic, and just a really great food conversation, very educated conversation. And then about 20 minutes later, I can hear this noise coming from the stage. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is that? And I open the curtain. Well, isn't it the guy that I was just having this lovely conversation with about organic chicken is now screaming? I don't even know if there are words on the stage. And I thought, you know what, the food piece is the one piece that connects everyone, mm-hmm. and the nourishing yourself well. So we would believe that it was like, if you were a band member, you were on the road so often that you wanted to feel like you had come home. So we would always create like food from scratch that was really nourishing for people. And we like to look at it as that their job is to perform, whether you're a hockey player or whatever, your job is performing. So my job is to feed you so you can perform. Cool. And I think it really, really set a tone for a lot of food education, both on their side and our side. But it really spoke to it is that one universal language that giving someone a chocolate chip cookie in the middle of the afternoon can change the course of their day. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. So when it comes to working with athletes, is that a different mindset in cooking? Like, how do you go about like working with athletes, and what sort of things are you thinking about?
I think for a lot of them is definitely focusing a lot more on the high performance. And I would say for the way I cook normally and the way I go about things is very much in line with that, because it's being able to have your body perform in high levels away. I truly believe, in you and I've spoke to this, that the food industry knows very little about the health of things. The health industry knows very little about the actual food and food production and ingredients. So somewhere there's a gap or a bridge that needs to be made here. And I think being able to be aware of what those ingredients are and knowledge and cook for the good of the person. I've always said for years that there's two kinds of chefs out there. Those that cook for the good of their own ego, and those that cook for the good of the people eating it. And once you figure out which one you are, that's where your success is going to lie. And when you're cooking for the good of the people and wanting them to excel, then your entire drive becomes around reevaluating and recreating. And I think that's probably where my passion for like the healthy and mindful eating piece came, because those were my people I was surrounding myself by. I couldn't give somebody a big greasy burger and have them go get on the ice, or go climb in a wrestling ring. So it was always a drive to create something that would allow them and support them to perform in the highest ability. And then being able to trade that to my lifestyle and being able to trade it in my teenager's lifestyle and create food that really speaks to the performance aspect versus just the consumption aspect.
Oh, I love that. A note from our sponsor.
The Chef's Garden is a family-owned, regenerative farm that grows the most flavorful and nutritious vegetables, herbs, and microgreens for culinary professionals and home cooks. For over 30 years, the Chef's Garden has supplied some of the world's finest chefs and restaurants. Now, through Farmer Jones Farm, the same delicious ingredients are available to home cooks in the United States to use and enjoy, delivered directly to their homes. The Chef's Garden mission is to grow exceptional vegetables, care for each other and the land, and inspire a vegetable-forward future. For more information, visit chefs-garden.com.
And speaking of athletes, I have to bring this up because I find you are such an incredible person all the way around. You're training for a boxing match.
I am. So I'm actually going to be in a ring November 9th, which this will probably air after that. But right now I am training there's in London, Ontario, where I'm from, we're doing an event called the Fight to End Homelessness. And it's a whole bunch of average people who are going through like boxing training. So I'm an Ontario registered boxer right now. I've never punched anything in my life before. I did mention I teach yoga. So this is kind of a big swing from my reality, but it's been so much fun and it's for such a good cause. So we're having like a black tie event in the middle of the convention center where 40 adults, most over the age of 40, are going to get in the rings and beat each other up for 3 minutes. And I have to say, if you ever want to get in shape very quickly, train for boxing. It is the hardest workout I have ever done in my life and the most fun. And it really, after leaving the line of the kitchen, it very much fuels my adrenaline need that I was missing. And it's a good time for sure. But yeah, I'm going to box.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I'll do it twice, but I'm doing it once.
I'm so excited for you. Yeah. I feel like that's one of those like, tell me something nobody knows about you.
Yeah. And my answer for that was usually, I make my bed every day. And they're like, you do make your bed every day? I'm like, religiously, I make my bed every day. And now it's going to be, I'm an Ontario registered boxer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. That's so cool.
I don't know if I'll have teeth by the time I come back afterwards, so it's probably a good thing we're doing this interview now.
Yeah,
yes, I got a good one. So.
Oh, good.
Actually, my dentist has a table at the event, so it's very appropriate.
At least he's close.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So our... obviously, our focus is really around vegetables here at the Chef's Garden. And so I'd love to talk about what's your favorite like vegetable forward meal right now?
I was thinking about this earlier. I would have to say my lunch I had today, of course, because it was so incredibly grown and picked, and everything about it was created so beautifully. But I would say, you know what, there's not a vegetable I don't love. I really, really love them for all kinds of different things. Actually, if you notice, like my arm's covered in vegetables, if you can imagine.
Gosh,
Cool. So being able to create something new with vegetables, I think is one of the greatest things we can do these days. I wouldn't even limit myself to one favorite, because I like different ones for different things. And I think we put ourselves in cages by not allowing ourselves to be creative with vegetables. Like we were saying, I was saying on my veggie platters, I put raw asparagus and raw green beans, and we had raw kohlrabi for lunch, and which I had never had before. But we get stuck in these structures of things. And I was actually thinking earlier when Jamie came in with this big pumpkin, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, is that pumpkin okay to eat? And then I thought to myself, why would that pumpkin not be okay to eat? Why do we automatically go to like this thought? And I think that's one of my biggest things I've learned this summer from my time out in the islands in Canada to here is the level of things, and why I love this place so much as well is the belief that you can eat the whole life of the plant. And just because it doesn't look perfect and as a carrot that you would think it does not make it inedible. And I think we really need to get out of our mindset in that and really open up ourselves a lot to that perfection of things, and that'll really allow us to eat a lot more things. And don't worry about the labels. Like people always ask, I would say I eat probably 95% vegan. I would not call myself a vegan, because that 5% I'm eating, like I have a t-shirt that says I love butter. So I love eating vegan and vegetable, and I love cooking it because I find it so much more exciting these days than cooking just I don't mean just a piece of meat, than cooking a piece of meat. That I've done for a long time. Cooking and creating with vegetables I find to be so much more exciting, and turning them into different things. So I think we're doing ourselves a disservice as people in all by putting yourself in a category. Well, you have to be vegan. We have to be vegetarian. What's yours? I'm a pescatarian. Well, I'm a lacto-ovo vegetarian. And you know what? I like to eat a lot of vegetables. I don't eat a lot of meat. That's as simple as it is.
I love that.
And we need to just make it simple. It's food, and it's nourishing you. And if you're going to eat meat, then eat really great quality meat. And go with that. And then it doesn't matter what you're eating or how you're eating it. Just make sure it starts with really great quality food. I think that's the best piece for anybody.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. When it comes to Farming for Health, which is the name of our podcast, what does Farming for Health look like to you?
I would say Farming for Health. So if I think about it, and I think about like the planting and the soil and how that nourishes, and I think your health is an entire package. You have one shot at this venture on earth right now. It's an investment. It's not an instant gratification. You're not going to have a quick fix. It's an investment. So it's a one day I'm going to start walking more. The next day I'm going to cut out something that I know is not serving me to my highest quality as a person. And I think if we start investing in ourselves more, almost like farming, like you don't just start one day, plant a seed, and there's a beautiful crop there. You have to wait, and you have to water it and nourish it and feed it and see what it becomes and what it might have started at. Like 2 years ago, would somebody have ever said or told me I was going to be boxing? No, not a chance. Wasn't even on the radar. But being open to what comes, and I think it's one of those ever developing things for us and ever growing, and that we really need to be open to more things like that and see what that looks like, and just every day plant a different garden and see what comes up.
Oh, I love it. So where will our listeners go to connect with you? Where can they find you online?
So on Instagram, I'm at the Chef Kim, And that would probably be one of my biggest platforms. And then there'll be different links in my bio that you can attach to through Facebook, or my kids keep telling me to get a TikTok account. I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet. And yeah, I don't know if I could figure it out. I might need to hire like a 9-year-old to teach me how to do it properly.
If you find a good one, I need one too.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So there's and then I have a couple other things that'll be linked in upcoming down the road. So
awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on. Are there any final thoughts you want to leave our audience with today?
You know what? I would say that going back to the speaking of it being an investment, like we go out of our way and buy a really great pair of sunglasses. We'll buy the most expensive pairs of shoes and then get really cheap chicken. Mm-hmm. Make your health the biggest investment that you make, because it is the one that's got to take you the longest. Like, I want a really great life and I want a long life. And I have so many things. And my dad passed away of a brain tumor when he was 57. And he had a list. He had come from a small town in Newfoundland with 7 brothers and sisters. And he had a list of things he wanted to do when he retired. And every couple of days he would come and he'd be like, Kim, did you know you can go to university for free when you retire? I'm going to go to university, because it was never an opportunity for him before. So when he passed away, I truly believed that I needed to live life as full as possible. So I've really made an investment in stretching that out and taking on all the experiences and doing all of it and making sure that I'm taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. It is a whole well-being package. And I think we need to start and connect all of that back to our food for sure, and buying really great quality food, knowing that the energy that goes into that food is about to be in your body, and that can affect everything. And I don't think we really put enough stock in that, knowing that and those eating habits are a direct link to your mental wealth, your health, your wellness in every aspect. We really need to bring that mindful piece around all of our eating, our shopping, our preparation. That's such a huge connection for all of it.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Farming for Health. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Connect with Farmer Lee Jones and I on Instagram and Facebook.